Hey folks, this is Kalani. With the start of Season 4, the gearing grind starts once again. We have massive item level bumps almost across the board, with gear dropping at item level 304 and higher. This season is a bit weird because it is a bit lopsided. Not everyone has new updated gear sources or even higher item levels to chase after, and some ways of gearing up are going to be much easier when compared to others, or even when just compared to previous seasons. So we're going to break down every gearing option, how far you can get, what's worth your time investment, and which sources of gear are the easiest to chase after. So here's our Season 4 Ultimate Gearing Guide and how you can get item level 304 and beyond. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. One of the fastest and easiest ways to gear up in Season 4 is going to be through the Fated Raid system. They reward some of the highest item level gear available, they have several new gearing up paths and options, and they're actually easier than when these raids first came out. It's almost free gear at this point, which is great if your goal is to get your item level as high as possible before the Dragonflight expansion comes out. Fated Raids are more or less the same as the old Shadowlands raids, except the bosses scale up to deal more damage and have more health, they drop better item level gear, and each boss also has a special affix that makes the boss harder and kind of easier at the same time. Mostly easier if I'm being honest. Now not every Shadowlands raid is fated at the same time, it's only one per week to start with. So for this first week we have the Castle Nathria raid, next week it's going to be the Sanctum of Domination raid, and then after that it's the Sepulchre of the First Ones, and it will keep rotating throughout the season. So one raid each week until they shake things up later on down the line. In Season 4, all 4 difficulties of raids and every boss are available right from the get-go, so we don't have to wait for LFR wings to open, there's no waiting for Mythic to start, it's all available right now. So you can full clear the raid in LFR right away, or you can start pushing Mythic bosses, it's completely up to you. The higher difficulty you go, the better rewards you're going to get. For LFR mode, early bosses will drop item level 265 loot, and the later bosses will drop 272 item level gear. For normal mode, you're looking at item level 278 gear and 285 from the later bosses. On heroic, bosses will drop 291 gear, with the last bosses dropping 298 item level loot, and then on mythic you can get all the way up to 304 loot from the early bosses, with the last bosses dropping a whopping item level of 311. So even if you just go for LFR during this season, you can get better gear than anything available to solo or casual players in previous seasons. If you bump it up to normal or heroic, you have some massive gear upgrades to chase after, and of course the mythic raiders out there will be geared to the teeth as per usual. It's worth noting that while the Sepulchre of the First Ones is the active fated raid, you can get straight tier gear drops at these higher item levels, but Castle Nathria and the Sanctum of Domination do not drop tier gear directly, and everybody is going to want their 4 set again at higher item levels because, let's be honest, the 4 sets are probably the most powerful pieces of gear we can equip, even if the item levels are a little bit low. So obtaining your 4 set, or keeping your 4 set if you already have it, is going to be a massive power spike, and then you're just really looking for some big item level upgrades to upgrade your tier gear further. Thankfully, all raid gear in Season 4 can be tossed into the Creation Catalyst to change it into tier gear, or to change its stats if it's not a tier slot. All you need is some Catalyst charges, which accumulate over time and carried over from Season 3. For example, I have about 36 charges left, so that's not really a concern if you haven't used the Creation Catalyst much. And then you also need Cosmic Flux. Cosmic Flux drops from raid bosses in Season 4, from every single raid in fact, so again you shouldn't run into many issues with that currency. As with every other season, killing more raid bosses will also help fill up your weekly vault. The vault is going to be just as important when it comes to gearing up, it's an extra chance at free loot every week. Kill as many bosses as you can on the highest difficulty you can, and hopefully you'll get something good when the weekly reset comes around. Remember that you always have a chance at tier gear from the weekly vault too, and any item you get from the vault can be turned into tier gear at the Creation Catalyst, so even if a piece of gear isn't necessarily that good, even if it's just an item level upgrade, it can be used in the Creation Catalyst for a huge advantage. Season 4 also introduces something we haven't seen in a long time, raid loot vendors. When you first enter a fated raid, you'll get a quest to kill 30 raid bosses. The reward for that quest is a puzzling cartel dinar. You can complete this quest a total of 3 times, and each time requires fewer boss kills, so you can eventually collect 3 dinars total. You can take this new currency to some new vendors in Oribos. They should be next to the weekly vault, but they might only show up after you collect your first dinar. are. These vendors can sell any and every weapon and trinket that drops from all 3 Shadowlands raids, so you can buy your best in slot weapon or trinket if they haven't dropped by the time you get your dinars, giving you even more access to loot if you do a bit of raiding this season. You can actually complete these quests on LFR mode, by the way, so you can buy items from these vendors even if you just do LFR for all of Season 4. There's also a new way to upgrade your raid gear from one difficulty to the next, or even higher depending on how you want to progress. For each boss you kill on Heroic or Mythic, you will get a confounding cipher. These are different for Heroic or Mythic, so you need to collect them separately. When you get 20 ciphers, so after 20 boss kills on Heroic or Mythic, you can combine them into an upgrade item. You can then use that upgrade item on any piece of gear to instantly upgrade it to Heroic or Mythic item level. You can even use these items on LFR gear, and you can skip over difficulties, so you can go from LFR or normal straight to a mythic item level item if you have the appropriate upgrade item. This is actually going to be a great way to gear up long term because you don't have to rely on items dropping multiple times. You can just upgrade it instead. So if you get your best in slot weapon from normal, you actually don't need to get that again on mythic. All you have to do is kill 20 mythic bosses and you can instantly upgrade that weapon, and boom, best in slot mythic weapon. Now, I would usually talk about world bosses in a different section, kind of for all players or casual players, but they're very closely tied to raiding in Season 4, so I hope this makes sense. World bosses can also drop significantly higher item level loot during Season 4, but it's only one world boss at a time, and it's directly linked to the current fated raid. While Castle Nathria is the fated raid, the original 4 Shadowlands world bosses drop better loot, and they will also be fated, but only one of these bosses is active at any one time, so for this week that's Nurgash over in Revendreth, so you have to check which raid is fated and then check which world boss is up. It's a little easier when Sanctum of Domination is fated because it's just Morgeth the Tormentor that will be fated and drop better loot, and then when the Sepulchre of the First Ones is fated, Antros over in Zereth Mortis will drop better loot too. If you ever need to check which raid is fated, just open up your dungeon journal, the default keybind for that is Shift J I believe, and go to the Shadowlands raid section. The fated raid will have a special symbol, so it's always easy to check. If you look closely at the World Boss World Quest on your map, it actually has the same icon when it's fated, so that's when it can drop the higher item level loot. A fated World Boss can drop item level 285 gear, which is a huge upgrade for anyone who doesn't want to delve into raids or other endgame content. It's also quite interesting that with all 6 World Bosses available throughout the season, World Bosses can actually cover almost your entire gear set. There are very few slots that are not covered with their loot tables combined, so be sure you're killing the world boss every week. You never know, you might just get lucky. Moving on, let's talk about gearing up through dungeons and what's changed for Season 4. All of the item level rewards have been significantly increased, so even the easier difficulties will be more rewarding. Normal dungeons will reward item level 236 gear, heroic dungeons are bumped up to 249 gear, and mythic dungeons will give you 262 gear. That's actually pretty decent for getting alts caught up to gear up fresh max level characters, or for getting some item level bumps as a more casual focused player. Lower end dungeons haven't been that relevant recently, but with very few updates for the open world or casual content in Season 4, they're actually going to be useful this time around. If you're looking for the higher gear upgrades from dungeons, you'll need to take part in the Mythic Plus Keystone system. This season is a bit weird because the Shadowlands dungeons are not going to be in our Mythic Plus dungeon pool. Instead, we'll have the 2 Tazavesh Mega Dungeon Wings, the 2 Mechagon Mega Dungeon Wings, the 2 Karazhan Mega Dungeon Wings, as well as the Iron Docks and the Grimrail Depot from the Warlords of Draenor expansion. So we're taking it back to some older dungeons, some of which actually hold up decently well. I'm kind of surprised. As a quick note, there are portals in Oribos right next to the Flight Master to help you get to these dungeon locations, so you don't have to trek all over the world. As per usual, the higher keystone level you complete, the better loot you can expect to receive. For this season, we start at item level 262 gear for running plus 2 keys, and it caps out at item level 288 from running plus 15 keys. You can run keys higher than 15, but the item level will not increase any further. As with raiding, the more dungeons you run, the more slots you will fill up in the weekly vault. You will need to run 1 dungeon, 4 dungeons, or 8 dungeons to fill up the first, second, and third slot respectively. So the more you run, the higher chance of getting something you need or want in the weekly vault when the reset comes around. The dungeon weekly vault has always been very lucrative when it comes to gear rewards, because the reward you get is significantly higher when compared to the difficulty of the dungeon you need to run. It doesn't really take too much effort to get higher item levels if you make sure you have at least 1 reward reward waiting for you in the weekly vault thanks to those inflated rewards. For Season 4, completing a +2 key will give you an item level 278 reward in the vault. That's kind of crazy, and that's the lowest reward on offer. That steadily increases up to item level 304 if you complete a +15 key sometime during the week. And honestly, some of these dungeons are actually really easy this time around, so getting those +15 keys done might be easier when compared to previous seasons. So that's your big goal if you want to get your hands on some of that shiny item level 304 gear. And remember that this dungeon row can also reward you with tier gear, and any of the items you get from your vault can be used in the creation catalyst too, so it's going to be a great source of higher item level tier gear on top of everything else. Season 4 is still going to use the same Mythic Plus rating system, which will become very important if you want to upgrade your dungeon gear. You earn score for each dungeon you run, and the higher key you do, and the faster you complete them, the higher score you will get. Tyrannical and Fortified keys are scored separately, so you'll need to run each dungeon twice, one with each affix, to maximize your score. There are various rewards like titles and mounts if your score gets high enough, but the main advantage here is that you unlock upgrades for your dungeon gear at higher rating as well. As you can see from the chart on screen, you start as low as item level 262, which is level 1 for Mythic Plus gear right now, and you can upgrade it all the way to level 12, which is item level 298. So if you get to 2000 rating, you can upgrade any and all dungeon gear to item level 298, which is huge for just running dungeons. As you climb through the rating brackets, you unlock more and more gear upgrade potential until you hit that max of 298, so there's a lot to progress through as well. To upgrade all of this gear, you're going to need Valor. The Valor currency is very straightforward, just run more Mythic Plus dungeons. For each dungeon you complete, you will earn 135 Valor minimum, so save up your Valor and upgrade whatever items you want. Season 4 is also very special in that there is no Valor cap this time around, so you can farm Valor all day long and upgrade your gear as much as you want to without any strict limitations. Something that many players may have forgotten about are Covenant Callings. They still exist, believe it or not, and you can still get one of them per day. They reward a small amount of Valor points when completed, so if you want some extra Valor without running any more dungeons, these could be an option to keep in mind. And then the last main endgame activity you can do for some good gear rewards is PvP. PvP gear works a bit differently because it's less powerful outside of PvP but more powerful inside of PvP content. So if you really just want to PvP and you don't care about the rest, PvP gearing will be a great fit for you. In Season 4, the unrated PvP gear that you can buy with Honor from one of the PvP vendors in Oribos starts at item level 229 and can be upgraded all the way to item level 268. You can see that every piece of gear at every item level is significantly stronger in PvP content as well, so you can get up to item level 285 in PvP content just from unrated PvP. You can also jump straight into rated PvP to start the Conquest grind once again. Conquest can be spent on rated PvP gear at one of the other vendors in Oribos. This time, rated gear starts at item level 275, which is 288 in PvP combat, and that goes all the way up to item level 301, which is 311 in PvP combat. The chart on screen shows you the progression and how much rating you need to obtain to upgrade your gear. You will still need honor points to upgrade rated gear as well. So PvP gearing hasn't really changed that much in Season 4, you just have higher item level rewards to chase after. There is one new thing you can poke around with though, the solo queue shuffle. If you haven't really tried rated PvP because you need a team for everything, you can jump into solo queue all by yourself and go through a few rounds of arena. You get some conquest and honor, and it might be the introduction to higher end PvP that you need to get started on rated PvP for real. As with every other type of content, PvP also helps to fill up your weekly vault. More weekly vault rewards means a higher chance of a gear upgrade, and the PvP rewards can also be tier gear, so that would help save up a charge on your creation catalyst. Speaking of the creation catalyst, let's talk a bit more about this in detail because it's going to be incredibly important, and some of you folks who didn't play in Season 3 might not have any idea what I'm talking about. Over in Zereth Mortis, you can find the creation catalyst. It's in the southern area of the zone. You can interact with the catalyst and put eligible gear in here to turn it into Sepulchre raid gear, including tier sets. The main use is for tier sets, but you can also use it for transmog purposes too. So if you put in a head, shoulder, chest, hands or leg piece from Season 4, it can be from almost anywhere, from the Fated raids, from Mythic Plus dungeons, from PvP, from any of your weekly box gear, or it can be a handful of other sources. You can slot it into the catalyst and use some cosmic flux to turn it into tier gear. Getting your 4 set bonus as quickly as possible at those higher item levels will give you the largest power spike, so you should prioritize that. So even if you don't raid, everyone has access to your tier set thanks to the creation catalyst, so be sure to make good use of it. Another special type of gear that usually makes its way into these gearing guides is legendary gear. Now for season 4, legendary gear has no changes whatsoever. No higher ranks, no new currency, no upgrades at all. So if you have your double legendaries at item level 291 right now, that's all you can do. It can't go higher, so you're already done with legendary gear for the rest of the expansion. Now if you don't have that, here's a very quick rundown on how you can obtain it. For your first legendary, you'll need a rank 7 base item, your legendary effect, 2 stat missives, as well as Soul Ash, Soul Cinders, and Cosmic Flux. The easiest way to get the currencies is to farm Cosmic Flux in the Zereth Mortis zone, rares, quests, treasures, and pretty much everything else in the zone reward Cosmic Flux, as well as dungeon runs, some PvP activities, and killing raid bosses. You can purchase a bag of explored souls from the Enlightened Broker Rep vendor in Zereth Mortis that provides you with all of the Soul Ash and Soul Cinders you need for one legendary upgrade. That costs 3,000 Cosmic Flux. That's the easiest way, but not necessarily the most cost-effective way. To get Soul Ash and Soul Cinders the old-fashioned way, you need to run Torghast layers. You can run these endlessly for the reward, so just keep going until you have enough. Now the rank 7 base item, that's going to give you the max item level for your legendary gear, can be crafted or bought on the auction house. I would probably just buy them at this point, it's going to be much cheaper, and getting caught up with crafting would be very involved and probably very expensive. The 2 stat missives that you need can also be bought on the auction house. It's just Missive of Critical Strike or Missive of Mastery and whatever else. You want to pick your best 2 stats to put on your legendary gear. And then you need a legendary effect. I would double check your class Discord or a website like Wowhead to make sure you're getting a good one, and those sites should also tell you where to get it. Bear in mind that certain legendary effects can only be applied to certain gear slots, so pick your legendary effect first, then buy the appropriate rank 7 gear slot item. Take all of that to the Rune Carver and he will make you a shiny new legendary. For the second legendary, you do the exact same thing except for the legendary effect part. That has to be a unity effect, and that comes from the reputation vendor in Zereth Mortis. The unity effect is the only one you can equip as a second legendary, so it's kind of required. That should get you all caught up with legendary gear if you weren't already. Now, Conduits are another system with no meaningful updates in Season 4. Conduits still cap out at item level 278, they don't go higher, and that item level is actually dropped in normal fated raids, so they're very easy to obtain this time around. And then the Vessel of Profound Possibilities had its requirements removed. It now just costs 10,000 Cosmic Flux, so you can pop by your Covenant vendor and buy that to instantly learn all Conduits at max item level if you have plenty of Flux to spend. So that's pretty much all of your high-end gearing options. That's what we can do for higher item levels, but what about catch-up stuff? What if you just ding 60 or you have a fresh alt, or you just want to tinker around with a class you haven't played in a long time? How can you get caught up with item level to start some of this other endgame gear grind? There are still a few options, though I will be honest, casual play and catch-up gear has kind of been left in the dust for this season. You can still buy item level 226 BOA tokens in Zereth Mortis for 500 anima each. That's going to be your best, fastest initial gearing up option if you are a fresh level 60. You can also throw down some gold instead of anima and buy up some crafted gear on the auction house. Crafted gear comes in at item level 233 across the board, so it's a bit higher than the BOA tokens, but it can cost you a significant chunk of gold. If you have more gold to throw down, you can also equip one item level 262 piece of gear, but that will probably be even more expensive. Another gold option you have is raid BOEs, I guess. With the fated raids dropping huge item level bumps over anything else, the bind on equip gear that also drops from those raids will be a big item level boost for anyone who isn't jumping into raids or Mythic Plus. These BOEs will be even more expensive though, so it really just depends on how much gold you have and how much you're willing to spend on some upgrades. But that's kind of it as far as catching up quickly goes. If you're a solo player or casual player, you honestly don't have too much to sink your teeth into for this season. It's definitely a bit haphazard, kind of thrown together last minute kind of deal, so only the big 3 endgame content types get updates, and even then it's not always that much of an update. So things like the Zereth Mortis Cypher gear, that has no increase from what I understand, so there's nothing extra to be gained on that front. The Sandworn relics were made bind on account so you can trade them around, and you can still turn Sandworn relic gear into tier gear using the creation catalyst, but I will be perfectly honest with you, at item level 246, this stuff just isn't worth your time or effort anymore. So what can you do? Well, normal dungeons drop item level 236 and you can queue straight into those very easily. The same goes for heroic dungeons and they drop item level 249 gear. You only need to be item level 185 to enter heroic dungeons, so you'll get massive upgrades in there. So that's easy, queuable content that you can get up to almost 250 item level from, which is fantastic for alts, new players or fresh level 60 characters in general. That will also get you to the LFR requirements, so you can jump into LFR after that. If you go one step further and do the mythic dungeons, you can bump that up to item level 262, which is almost at LFR level. It's not a massive step up from there to do lower end mythic plus keystones, which can start you off on your gearing adventure quite nicely. I would also recommend you pop into looking for raid if you want some gear upgrades as a casual player. LFR is dropping 265 and 272 this time around. It's going to be incredibly easy for almost any group to blast through. All bosses are available right from the start, so you have more chances to get gear before the season ends, and you can also complete the Cartel Dinar quests to buy some higher item level loot from the vendors in Oribos, and the raids are actually fun with the Fated affixes in play. I would also recommend you do the Fated world bosses every week. If you get lucky, you can see some massive gear upgrades there, and as I said before, with so many loot tables available, they actually cover a lot of different gear slots. But my main recommendation for this season would be trying to dip your toes into other forms of content, if you want to anyway. I think this is one of the best times to hop into raids for sure. You get to experience all 3 Shadowlands raids in the same season. They're all going to be amazing as far as gear rewards go, and here's the best part. People are learning these fights over again. With the affixes in play, the fights are at least a little different for everyone, so everyone is learning again in some capacity. That will probably make groups more lenient towards players who don't know the fights inside and out, but even better than that, the raids are actually really easy, way easier than when they first came out. Our guild full cleared Castle Nathria on Heroic the first night in about 2.5 hours, and the only reason our progress was ever halted was due to bugs. So when those bugs are ironed out, the raids in this season should be a pushover for most groups who have otherwise struggled to progress on them in previous seasons. I genuinely think this is a great time to dip your toes into raiding if you've been curious about it up until now, but that should cover every gearing path available in the game right now for Season 4. Sadly, this time not everyone gets an update, but hopefully there is something in here for you to get excited about still. How are you planning on gearing up in Season 4? Are you going to give the Fated raids a try, step back into some of those older dungeons for a new Mythic Plus experience, or keep smashing skulls in PvP? Or are you going to take this opportunity to get caught up with other areas of the game in anticipation of Dragonflight, or maybe just take a break? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I'll see you next time.